So let's take a look at lessons 3 and 4. In lessons 3 and 4, in the pacing guide, it's one or the other because they both build the idea of equivalent ratios. If you feel like your students need to take time for both, then take time for both. But they're both just building that idea of equivalent ratios in very concrete ways. Lesson 3 does it through doubling batches in a recipe. Lesson 4 does it through changing the color of water by adding different amounts of different colors. So on this warm-up, we're kind of reviewing being able to write sentences to describe ratios. And then the second question kind of leads into where we're going. If there were 2 of the flour, how many of each shape would be there? So kind of looking at those equivalent ratios. The powdered drink mix is a great activity because it lets kids use something physical and tangible in front of them and look at the taste of it. As you put more of the drink mix in the same amount of water, it gets stronger. And so they're able to really build that idea of the more that's in there, the stronger it is. And then if you have 2 cups with the same strength of drink mix and you pour them together, you have the same strength of drink mix, you just have twice as much. And so for this activity, you'll need to have the mix and the water, and you'll pour it. The instructions are in the complete lesson plan, and we'll walk you through how to do that. Not every kid tastes it, which I think is pretty key. You bring 2 or 3 kids up that may be students that sometimes struggle to learn and keep up, but I think as long as behavior is okay, this would be a great day for them to take a lead because they can talk about, oh, this one tastes sweeter than the others or something like that. So after you've gone through and kind of done your demonstration, kids are going to come to this student work and work through this kind of with you also. So looking at making sure you get from the A and B mix that you had at the beginning to A being the same as B, and then what happens when we combine those. So this really flows much more whole group than a lot of the activities. In activity 3, we're looking at the same kind of thing, just with batches of cookies. So there's instructions again in the complete lesson plan about what you're going to kind of talk them through with. If you excuse me, double the ingredients, you get double the number of cookies, but they all taste the same as ones in the original batch. And so building up that idea of equivalent ratios that way in activity 3. And then in activity or lesson 4, we do the same kind of idea, still building those equivalent ratios that when you double one ingredient, you double the other, but now we're talking about doubling the liquid in this activity that just popped up on turning green. But I want to go back to the number talk real quick. So on this one, you're looking at strategies. So as kids figure out that this one is equal to 90, you want to pull out the strategy for the kid, and I would have them write them down so you can call on the kid who does this, who realizes that 6 times 2 is 12, therefore our product will be doubled as well. And so that gets us to 180. And then here, to get from the 15 to the 45, that's tripled. And so we would triple that and get the 270 there. And then any kids who can see that this one is the same 45, but twice as many of them, plus one more 45 to build that last one, which I think gets us to 585. And kind of build that way. You may not have time to get to that last one, but at least thinking about that strategy is the key in this one. So now on this one, you may want to walk the kids through kind of what this looks like, that as I add 5 blue and then another blue, and maybe I forgot how much I put in of the blue, I can check the show amounts and I can see, okay, I have 11 blue now, and now I have 11 yellow, and then I can go over here and have 5 of each, and it tells me at the top that it's a match, so I kind of get that quick instant feedback to make sure I'm doing what I need to do. And then you can reset and take off those amounts, whatever you need to do there. But I'm probably not brave enough to be a science teacher, therefore I would not actually pass out graduated cylinders with yellow and blue water in my class, but I think the digital activity will be a good way to do that without them. So the students go through this and kind of work through it and practice. And I've actually done this with a sixth grader, and he did a great job going through it. The Are You Ready for More is a good one, I think, for kids who finish up quickly. They can work through that. And then this next activity is an optional activity if you have time, but it just reinforces these same ideas about looking for equivalent ratios. And if students are drawing diagrams still, as they did in lesson 2, they can really look at those to help them with those equivalent ratios as well. And then in that summary, I think you see how that those sets of diagrams, those sets of 4 red paint and 2 yellow paint, and the repetition of that really helps build up kids' sense of equivalent ratios and what they mean. So feel free to pick lesson 3 or lesson 4, or if you decide to, go ahead and do both of them.